I'm at the site of our latest project here in Michigan City, Indiana. We bought this house about 2 weeks ago now, and I've just been super impressed with the level of progress that we've made in the last 2 weeks. You know, when we bought it, it was totally full of garbage. There was stuff all over the place. There was holes in the wall. It was a mess. We've taken about 13 dump truck loads to the dump. And since we started, we've completed all the drywall. We mudded it and sanded it. We've replaced all the windows, the doors. We've done all the rough-in plumbing. We replaced the outlets and switches. We cleaned out the basement and totally painted the basement. We painted the entire exterior. And all of that progress has been a result of having a really solid general contractor. I've got a great relationship with my general contractor. He's been working with me for about the last 3 years on about 25 different projects. But that was not always the case. I've gone through some pretty painful experiences with contractors over the years. And you know, as I was walking through this project earlier this week, I thought it would be a cool location for a video on the topic of when is it appropriate to fire a contractor to look for a new one. You know, we all have those experiences as we're working through a project where all of a sudden we get off the plan. The project is off the plan that we thought we had agreed to in the beginning with the contractor, whether they want more money or they're behind on time or the quality just isn't right. And so the question comes up, and you can't always fire them immediately. You know, that's not the solution. Your job as an investor is to come up with a solution to problems. And the solution isn't always to just fire the contractor and go out and find a new one, because you're always going to have issues that you have to work through. So I want to do a video on when does it make sense to fire a contractor and move on, and when does it make sense to work with them through the issues and get to a resolution, because there's always going to be issues that come up. I'm Kirby Atwell, and this is Living Off Rentals, where we believe high quality rental properties are the best investment a person can make. If this is your first video on this channel, hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified when new videos on helpful rental investing related topics come up. I release videos like that on a weekly basis. So maybe you're in a really tough deal right now and you've got a contractor that's really testing your last nerve, and maybe that's how you found this video. You search for, you know, should I fire my contractor? And it's a great question, because if you're the type of person who loses your cool and you fire too soon, you're always going to be searching for someone else, that unicorn out there who you're never going to have problems with or not be on the same page with. And that person just doesn't exist. So the solution is not to always fire. But on the other hand, if you're the type of person who avoids conflict and you try to let somebody limp along too long, it could really financially damage your business and really be at the detriment of that project. So sometimes you need to make the swift decision that you need to move forward with the fire. So how do you make a correct decision around this when issues come up? There are a few tests that I recommend when you're thinking about whether it makes sense to fire a contractor or maintain the relationship with them through the project. And the first one has to do with sort of the screening of the contractor up front. The second one is a test that you can put the contractor through when you get to that point where there's an issue. And then the last one has to do with setting expectations. Firstly, one of the biggest things that I always tell people is that you cannot make a crook honest with paperwork or with discussion or with any other means, you know. So if you find someone who you think is just a great contractor, but you know, you see that they're not the most honest person. You know, there's a trail of people that they've kind of screwed over, and the way they talk, you can tell their ethics aren't very high and their values don't necessarily align with yours. But you think, well, I've got solid contracts and I've got, I think I can talk them through my expectations and I won't be somebody that they screw over. I think you're lying to yourself. You know, you can't make somebody who just doesn't share your value systems all of a sudden share your value systems on one project that you're working on. The most important thing that you can screen for up front is values alignment. they need to be a really good person, a reliable person, somebody you can count on, somebody who doesn't screw people over to start with. That's what you should screen for. Then look at their history of the work that they've done and all the other things. Because yes, they need to be a good contractor as well, but if they're a crook, if they're somebody who screws people over, you're gonna be the next in line. So if you're in a deal right now and you've hit a problem with a contractor, you can ask, when I screen them, do they have a history of being somebody who screws people over? Are they not an ethical person? Are they a crook? If so, then it's probably good to just cut ties right now, because it's probably not going to get better from here. The second thing has to do with a little test that you can run on the contractor when you hit the problem. And this has to do with the contractor's level of responsibility and accountability behind whatever the issue is that you're experiencing. So when you ask them about the issue, do they blame everybody else? You know, it's not their fault. They're just the general contractor. The plumber didn't show up and he's screwing them over. So, you know, I had to go home because the plumber didn't show up. Or the electrician, you know, he wired it wrong. And so, you know, my guys couldn't work. So that's why we're behind and that's why I need another $10,000. And if they're pointing fingers constantly at everyone else, you know, my car broke down, my dog died, whatever the excuse is, they've always got an excuse. That's totally different than if they show up and they say, yes, there's a problem. We were supposed to be a week ahead right now based on our agreement and we're behind. And you know, there's things that led to this, but I'm taking responsibility. And it's gonna cost me a little bit of money. It's probably gonna cost you a little bit of money, but at least we can come to a new agreement and we can move forward. That's a totally different conversation than when they're pointing fingers. And a lot of the problem contractors that I've worked with over the years are the type of people who have that sort of victim mentality where it's never their fault. They've always got an excuse. They've always got a reason why it's somebody else's fault. And it's at their own detriment, but it's a perfect sign for you. If that's what they're doing, it's probably someone you need to cut ties with now because it's not gonna get better. Finally, the last aspect that will help you identify whether you should fire a contractor when you hit a road bump is the level of expectations you laid out for the contractor up front. So hopefully you laid out expectations around timing, around cost, around when payments are made, around penalties if the contractor comes in late. You know, there's all these different things that you should lay out in writing right up front so you're on the same page before the project starts. And then once you hit these issues, you can refer back to the expectations. So if you didn't do that on this project that you're having issues with, then it's a learning experience for next time to lay that out. But if you did do that and you pull up the expectations, and again, if there's excuses and you can see in black and white what the expectation was, but for some reason, now that we're into this, the contractor isn't on the same page that that's what he's agreeing to anymore, then there's a problem with this contractor. You know, the conversation should be, yes, that's what we agreed to up front. You know, there's been issues that came up that were a result of this. As the contractor, I'm taking responsibility for those issues, and I know it's going to cost me a little bit of money because that's the type of person that I am. And maybe, you know, you as the investor are willing to give a little bit as well to come up with a new set of expectations. Then you can get moving forward with that project. But if the conversation is, yeah, I know we agreed to that, but stuff came up and sorry about your luck, basically, then you know you need to cut ties. But if you don't have clear expectations laid out in writing right up front, you will always have problems because what he remembers and what he's envisioning in the beginning might be totally different than what you actually said and what you're envisioning in the beginning. So you've got to have clear expectations, a scope of work, you know exactly what's going to be done to the project, a timeline, the payment schedule, when the contractor, you know, will actually get the draws, what needs to be complete for him to get the draws. All of that in writing before you start, and that will eliminate a lot of your problems right up front. I've got the basic payment schedule that I use with my contractors. I've got it in the description below. If you want to download that, just click on it, put in your email address, and you will get that payment schedule. You'll also get weekly emails from me about new content that I create that will help you as a rental property investor. So hopefully, if I'm speaking to you and you're in one of those really tough situations right now where you've got to make some difficult decisions, I feel for you. I've been there myself. Hopefully this video has added some value for you and it's helped you work through that decision-making process so you know whether you need to fire that contractor or you can work with him to get the project done. Hopefully if you did find value in this video, give it a thumbs up. Again, hit subscribe so that you can be notified of new videos. Also, we run a Facebook community called Living Off Rentals, so go over to Facebook, search Living Off Rentals, and the group will pop up. It's an awesome, engaged group of rental property investors. You can ask your question there or get insight into any of the topics that we discuss. I hope to see you in the group, but if not, I will see you in the next video.